The park starts just south of Dalwhinnie as the Great Dramochter Pass climbs 1,516 feet to the scene of a bloody encounter in 1602 between the Macphersons and MacCalls, where the MacCall chief was killed. The rail summit at 1,484 feet is the highest point in the British Railway network. It opened in 1863. Standing all alone in this wilderness is what appears to have been a group of 3 railway cottages that has now been converted to form what is probably the highest bed and breakfast accommodation in Britain. Balsporen cottages are almost encircled by the winding Truim River. With dramatic views and a warm, homely atmosphere, this cosy, comfortable B&B provides a source of rest and relaxation for the weary traveller. Wonderful home-cooked meals and teas refresh weary travellers and walkers alike. Due to the altitude, it's possible to do a half Munro and reach the summits of mountains without facing the usual arduous climb. The Ben Alder mountain peak at 3,757 feet high can clearly be seen from Balsporen cottages. It was high up in the safety of this wild terrain that Clooney's cage was located, the name given to the hideaway used by Ewan Macpherson, Clooney of the 45, which was for a time refuge to Bonnie Prince Charlie and gentle Lochiel. They all eventually escaped to France. Ewan died in poverty there. The prince fell into drunken oblivion and died a broken man, whilst Lochiel, upon returning to Scotland many years later, had the dubious honour of being both the last casualty of the 45 and the last person to be hanged, drawn and quartered. However, the true location of the cage remains a mystery, as it was never found by the government troops, and to this day the Ordnance Survey map shows a cave which is not the historic site. It was a 2-storey structure built in a thicket of holly, of which all traces have naturally disappeared, located on a rocky hill on the southern spur of Ben Alder overlooking Loch Ericht. Still today an inaccessible place within the private bounds of Glen Alder Estate, once Clan Macpherson lands, but today owned by a Swiss banker. Unusually, the loch is dammed at both ends and is 15 miles long, and is accessible by foot from the Dalwhinnie end. Before the new A9 was built, the Great North Road once passed through Dalwhinnie. The name refers to historic or legendary contests and means the field of meetings. This small village sits at the head of Loch Ericht at the foot of Glen Truim and is home to a small, quiet community. The summits of the Boar of Badenoch and the Sow of Athol rise close by. Lying at 1,073 feet, this is one of the highest villages in the Highlands. An inn built in 1729 hosted many honourable guests, including Bonnie Prince Charlie, General Johnny Cope and Queen Victoria. The Queen had arrived unexpectedly and incognito, and wrote in her diary that there was hardly anything to eat, only tea and 2 miserable Highland chickens, no pudding and no fun. Today, however, the inn at Loch Ericht offers visitors a much better reception, with all-day food in its restaurant, enjoying fine panoramic views. The pub is a great place to relax in front of an open log fire. The inn also offers 27 homely ensuite rooms. Here in the high wind-swept plain between the Grampian and Monaliath mountains, cattle drovers of the 18th century met on their way south over the Dramochter Pass to the larger markets of Crieff and Falkirk. This meeting place of drovers became one of new roads in the early 18th century, as General Wade used Dalwhinnie as a base from which to build his famous military roads. These roads served to facilitate the developing cattle trade. Life has always been hard in Dalwhinnie with its harsh climate. Electricity finally arrived here in 1934, and all through the 1940s 20-foot snowdrifts were the norm. Distillery workers had hostel accommodation to hand in the event of bad weather. It's interesting to note that the Dalwhinnie distillery has the additional responsibility of recording maximum and minimum temperatures, sunshine hours, wind speed and snow depth, as this is also an official meteorological office recording station number 0582. In 1897, £10,000 was put up by local gentry to build the Strathspey distillery between the Great North Road and the Highland Railway, right in the heart of the Highlands. Unfortunately, this venture ended in liquidation. After passing into American hands in 1905, the Prohibition years returned the distillery to Scottish hands. The Dalwhinnie Whisky Distillery is the highest distillery in the world and is home to a wonderful, full-bodied, smooth and warming single Highland malt whisky. Venture into the visitor centre and enjoy sampling this gentle spirit and observing the distillers at work. The distillery draws its water from the pure, snow-fed spring water flowing through heather and over rich local peat down the Altan Sluk, from the Lochan and Dora Uana, 2,000 feet in the Monachliath Hills. Traditional wood is still used for washbacks, and 2 copper stills send the alcohol into the lye pipes and through to the stillman, who separates out the purest part of the distillation for the oak casks, which will lie for 15 long years for the spirit to acquire its rounded character.